My husband of 13 years abandoned me and our 8-year-old daughter for his 24-year-old coworker. So I built my own life, then did this when he came begging after she left him for her wealthy boss. Throwaway, because I'm pretty sure he uses Reddit and I'm honestly a mess right now. I, female, 37, don't even know where to start. I guess with the fact that my husband Roy, male 39, of 13 years just walked out on me and our 8-year-old daughter Summer for some 24-year-old at his office. Like, completely blindsided me. Took most of his stuff, emptied our accounts, and just gone. I'm sitting here on my couch at 2 a.m. typing this because I can't sleep again, and I'm desperate for advice or, I don't know, something. Perspective maybe? Or just to scream this into the void because I feel like I'm going insane. So background, I guess? We met junior year of college when we got paired up for this economics project. We used to joke about how he tried to impress me by taking the hardest part of the assignment, but ended up needing my help to finish it. Lol. That was actually kind of our dynamic for a while. Roy trying to do everything himself, then me helping him fix it. Should have been a sign maybe, I don't know. After graduation, we both had good careers going. I was in marketing, he was in financial advising. We got married after dating for 2 years, bought our first little house 3 years after that. Everything was going according to plan. When I got pregnant with Summer, we decided together that I would scale back to part-time freelance work while he focused on his career, since his had more advancement potential and required longer hours and travel sometimes. And I chose this arrangement. I really did. I mean, sometimes I'd get a little resentful when he'd be at work dinners while I was home doing bath time for the 500th time, but that was the plan we both agreed to. Family came first for me, and I thought for him too. The past couple years though, the past couple years, Roy started staying late at work all the time, missing family dinners constantly, always on his phone. He bought this ridiculously expensive car about 8 months ago, which I thought was kind of excessive for our budget, but he kept saying he deserved it for working so hard. His dad was always into expensive stuff too, had this whole watch collection that Roy was obsessed with as a kid. Roy always talked about wanting to show his success through the stuff he owned. Then he started making these little comments about my appearance, like how I'd let myself go after having Summer, which is complete BS, because I'm actually the same weight I was before pregnancy and I still work out 3x a week. He started criticizing how I kept the house, how I cooked, basically everything I did. My sister Christine noticed something was off at Summer's dance recital a few months ago. Roy spent the whole time texting someone and then literally left right after Summer's part. Didn't even stay for the little reception afterward where they had cookies and punch. Christine asked me if everything was okay with us, and I just made excuses for him being busy with work. God, I feel so stupid now. So how I found out, Summer was using the family iPad for her school project, this art thing with digital photos for science fair, when texts from someone named Courtney started popping up. They were synced from Roy's phone, and they were explicit, talking about their future together and how he couldn't wait to start their life and just, I can't even type it all out. I waited till Summer was asleep to confront him. When I showed him the iPad with the messages, he first tried to claim Courtney was just a work colleague. After I mentioned some of the messages, he turned it around on me, saying I'd been emotionally unavailable for years. I reminded him about all the date nights I tried to plan that he canceled. He accused me of snooping through his phone until I pointed out the messages just appeared on our family iPad. Eventually, he admitted everything. He told me he was in love with her, claimed he'd been unhappy for years, and blamed me for focusing too much on Summer. When I suggested counseling, he laughed and said he wanted out. The next day was Summer's science fair. I took her to school and she was so excited to show her project to her dad that evening. We were at the school for about 3 hours. When we got home, his closet was half empty. He left a note, a fucking note, saying he needed space and would explain things to Summer later. She kept asking where Daddy was, and I couldn't even. Then I discovered he'd basically cleaned out our joint checking account except for about $800, canceled our shared credit cards, changed his direct deposit to go somewhere else. I've been a part-time freelancer for 8 years while raising our daughter. Where was I supposed to get money for the mortgage? For groceries? I called his parents, who I thought I had a good relationship with. We had Sunday dinner with them twice a month for years. His mom got all weird and said there are two sides to every story, and that maybe I should have paid more attention to Roy's needs. What? This is the same woman who used to call me the perfect daughter-in-law. Telling Summer was, God, it was the hardest thing I've ever done. I just said Daddy was taking some time away, because what else could I say to an 8-year-old? She's having nightmares now. Started wetting the bed again, which she hasn't done since she was 4. I found out through our friend Matt that Roy moved directly into Courtney's downtown apartment. I talked to a lawyer who said Roy's actions count as financial abandonment, but that legal stuff will take time. Meanwhile, I'm scrambling to find a full-time job with an 8-year gap in my resume. Had to borrow money from my sister for the mortgage. Had to apply for emergency food assistance, which was so humiliating I cried in the car for 20 minutes afterward. Roy came by last week to get more of his stuff. He texted first about needing his golf clubs and winter clothes. When I asked if he was planning to see Summer, since she'd been asking for him constantly, he said he'd try to make time, but was very busy with work. When he showed up, Summer ran to hug him, and he gave her this distracted half hug while looking at his phone the whole time. I suggested he take her for ice cream while I gathered his things, and he refused because Courtney was waiting in the car. Are you kidding me? Summer asked who Courtney was, and he just stood there stuttering. I had to jump in and say she was Daddy's friend to save him from his own stupidity. He grabbed his stuff and was gone in less than 10 minutes. So now I'm interviewing for jobs I'm completely overqualified for because I need something now. I'm selling furniture to make next month's mortgage. I'm trying to act normal for Summer, but I'm barely holding it together. He's only seen her twice in the month since he left. Both times he brought expensive toys, but barely paid attention to her. Everyone says I'm not the one who failed here, but I feel like such a failure. My whole life just imploded, and I don't know what to do. Do I fight for this marriage? Is there even anything left to fight for? How do I protect Summer through all this? I just don't know anymore. Edit. Holy crap, this blew up overnight. Thank you all for the support and advice. To answer some common questions. Yes, I've documented everything, including the bank account withdrawal and the messages. My lawyer has copies of everything. No, I didn't have my own separate account. We had joint accounts that I trusted him with because we were married, and I thought that meant something. Lesson learned the hardest way possible. For those asking about child support, we don't have any formal arrangement yet. The lawyer says we need to file for legal separation first, and that's in process. About his parents, they've always favored Roy. He's their only son, has 2 sisters, and they've always excused his behavior. I just didn't think they'd turn on me like this after all these years. And no, I have no interest in revenge. I just want stability for my daughter and to figure out how to restart my life after hitching it to someone who could throw it all away so easily. Edit 2. To the person who asked if I suspected anything before. Honestly, no. I mean, he was distant and working late, but I really thought it was work stress. He's been chasing this partnership at his firm for years, and I believed him when he said he was putting in extra hours for that. I trusted him completely. That's what makes this so devastating. Now for the first update. First, thank you so much to everyone who commented on my original post. I was honestly in such a dark place when I wrote that, and your support and advice really helped me get through those first awful weeks. Several people asked for an update, so here goes. It's been about 6 months since Roy blew up our lives, and honestly so much has happened I don't even know where to start. I guess with the basics. The divorce is finally finalized, thank God. I have a new job, and Summer and I moved to a smaller apartment that we can actually afford. It's been a journey. I enrolled in this accelerated digital marketing certification program back in January. I actually sold my wedding rings to pay for it. They were just sitting in my jewelry box collecting dust anyway, so whatever. The jeweler initially offered me way less than they were worth, but I remembered my dad always taught me about negotiating, and I just held firm, which is something I realize I rarely did during my marriage. Roy would always take over any financial conversations, and I'd just go along with whatever he decided. But anyway, I got a fair price for the rings, and it felt good. Job hunting has been exhausting, especially while being a suddenly single mom. I had this one interview where the hiring manager noticed my missing ring and started asking super personal questions about my divorce. So inappropriate. But I needed a job so badly, I just sat there and answered them instead of walking out like I should have. I mean, what was I supposed to do? I had bills piling up and a kid to feed. I ended up taking an entry-level position at this mid-size marketing firm, even though I'm definitely overqualified. But it's steady income, and they're flexible with my schedule for Summer's sake. The pay barely covers our downsized apartment, but at least we have health insurance now. And honestly, after months of stress about money, just having a regular paycheck feels great, even if it's not much. My therapist, yes, I finally started therapy, another expense but so necessary, has been helping me recognize all the ways Roy was mean throughout our marriage. I honestly never saw any red flags at the time, but looking back, wow. Like how he would give me the silent treatment for days if I disagreed with him about financial decisions, or how he would criticize my parenting whenever Summer had any normal kid issues, or how he would make these jokes about me letting myself go that weren't actually jokes, but then he'd buy me something expensive, and suddenly everything was supposed to be fine again. And I fell for it every time. God, I was so naive. I cut my hair. I've had long hair our entire relationship because Roy always said he loved it long and made comments about women with short hair looking mannish. Ugh. But I just walked into a salon one day and got it all chopped into this modern bob. The stylist kept asking if I was sure, and I was like, yes, just do it. It feels so much lighter. I also replaced most of my mom clothes with more professional stuff for work, and I started working out with my neighbor who's also recently divorced. We do these morning walks before work, and it's been so good for my mental health. Not that I'm trying to get my body back or whatever. That's not the point at all. It's just, it feels good to move and talk with another adult who gets it. I've reconnected with some old friends that I'd lost touch with over the years, which I now realize was because Roy subtly isolated me. My college roommate Lisa straight up told me she tried to warn me about Roy back when we were dating because she caught him flirting with other women at parties when I wasn't around. I didn't believe her at the time, and we drifted apart. I accused her of being jealous, which was ridiculous, but that's what Roy suggested was happening. Now Lisa and I talk almost every week, and it's like, how did I not see what was happening? Oh, random thing. But when we were moving, I found this box of old photos, including some from a girl's trip to Florida before Summer was born. Roy hated those photos and always said they were inappropriate because I wore a bikini, a regular, normal bikini. He would get so weird whenever I mentioned that trip or those friends. Looking at them now, I'm like, this was a completely normal beach trip with friends. It made me realize how controlling he was about my appearance and who I spent time with. But then sometimes I look at those photos and wonder if maybe they were a little inappropriate. Ugh, I still catch myself doing that, questioning my own memories and perceptions because he did it for so long. Summer is managing. The child therapist has been amazing, helping her express her feelings through art. Her grades dropped a lot right after everything happened, but they've started to improve since we established new routines. We do pancake Sundays now and go to the park after school when weather permits. She's so resilient, it breaks my heart. Sometimes she seems totally fine, and other times she'll just burst into tears asking when Daddy is coming home. It's like emotional whiplash, and I'm doing my best, but sometimes I don't know the right things to say. There was this really tough incident at her school concert last month. Roy promised he would be there. Summer was so excited she made him this special invitation and everything. She was scanning the audience the entire performance looking for him. He never showed, never even texted me to say he wasn't coming. After the concert, Summer kept asking where Daddy was while looking around the auditorium. I texted Roy during the performance, but got no response. Summer refused to join the class pizza party afterward. In the car, she asked me if Daddy didn't come because he doesn't love her anymore. I tried explaining that Daddy's absence wasn't her fault. That's when she told me kids at school said her daddy left because she wasn't a good enough daughter. I had to pull the car over because I was about to lose it. I needed a minute to compose myself before I could even respond. I couldn't even look at her because I knew I would start crying and make everything worse. I explained that grown-up problems are never children's fault. She asked if we could call Daddy right then, so I tried calling Roy on speakerphone, straight to voicemail. Summer left this tearful message about her performance and how she wished he could have seen it. She kept saying, "I did really good, Daddy, and I swear I almost threw my phone out the window. I was so mad at him." Roy texted the next day saying he was in meetings and would make it up to her someday. Meetings at 7 p.m. on a Tuesday. I wanted to drive to his apartment and scream at him, but instead, I just documented it all for my lawyer. Like, what kind of father? I can't even. The divorce is finally final. I got full custody. Shocking, I know, since he barely sees her anyway. He fought hard over the financial settlement despite literally abandoning us. His lawyer tried to argue that since I chose to be a part-time freelancer, I wasn't entitled to much support. Thankfully, my lawyer was amazing, and the judge saw through that BS. Roy's visitation with Summer is supposed to be every other weekend, but he cancels last minute more often than not, always with some work excuse. I heard through Matt, our mutual friend, that Roy got passed over for the partnership he was expecting at his firm. Apparently, his relationship with Courtney is causing some tension in the office. Not that I care, but, what did he expect? That everyone would just be cool with him leaving his wife and kid for a coworker half his age. Idiot. I ran into Roy's college friend Tyler at the grocery store last week. So awkward. He mentioned he'd had dinner with Roy and Courtney, where Roy spent most of the evening taking work calls while Courtney looked bored and kept checking her phone. Tyler also let slip that Courtney has been spending a lot of time with her boss Ian. He's like 48 and the managing partner, at client meetings and industry events that Roy isn't invited to. Not that I care about their relationship drama, but karma, I guess. Wait, that sounds mean. I don't actually wish them ill. Or maybe I do sometime. I don't know, it's complicated. I've been working on my financial independence. I sold most of the jewelry and designer handbags Roy had given me over the years. I now realize most of them were guilt gifts after he'd been working late. I've established my own credit for the first time in years, which was scary but necessary. I felt ridiculously proud when I got approved for a small car loan without needing a cosigner. Like, embarrassingly proud of such a basic adult thing. The divorce settlement isn't amazing, but it's fair enough to provide some stability. I've been building up a freelance client base, working evenings after Summer's bedtime. The plan is to eventually transition to full-time self-employment so I can have more flexibility for Summer. But then sometimes I worry I'm being selfish for wanting my own business when maybe I should just focus on a stable job. But then I remember how Roy always made me doubt my ambitions, and I get mad all over again. Last week was Summer's school play, and Roy's parents showed up without telling me they were coming. After the performance, they approached Summer without even acknowledging me. Roy's mother immediately commented that Summer looked too thin and asked if I was feeding her properly. I explained that her pediatrician is completely satisfied with her growth and health. Like, what kind of question is that? Of course I'm feeding my child properly. Then Roy's father asked if I was still demanding unreasonable support payments. I had to clarify that the court determined the support amount, not me. Roy's mother suggested Summer spend the summer with them since I'm so busy working now. I explained we'd already enrolled Summer in summer activities near our home. Roy's father implied I was keeping Summer from their side of the family, which is completely untrue. I've literally texted them multiple times asking if they want to see her. Summer was getting visibly uncomfortable with the tension. Thankfully, a teacher came over to compliment Summer's performance, which diffused the situation. Roy's parents left, saying they'd talk to Roy about their concerns. Great. Just what I need. More problems. So that's where things stand. Sometimes I feel really proud of how far I've come in just 6 months. Other times, I'm still so angry that I was forced into this situation. My therapist says both reactions are valid and part of healing. Last week, I realized I'd gone an entire day without thinking about Roy once. My therapist had told me that milestone would come eventually, but I didn't believe her. It felt weird but good. Though, now that I think about it, maybe that's not entirely true. I probably did think about him, but just didn't notice. Or maybe I'm just trying to convince myself I'm over it when I'm not. Healing isn't linear, right? That's what everyone keeps telling me. I've heard rumors that Roy and Courtney's relationship is showing signs of strain, but honestly, it doesn't affect me either way. I'm focused on my own life now. There's a potential promotion coming up at work that I'm gunning for. Summer seems to be adjusting better to our new normal. For the first time in months, I'm hopeful about the future. Not that everything is perfect or anything. We still have hard days, but they're getting fewer. Edit. Wow, I didn't expect so many responses again. Thank you all for the support. To those asking if I've considered moving for better job opportunities, I can't right now because of the custody agreement. We have to stay within 50 miles of Roy, even though he barely uses his visitation time. Someone asked if my in-laws have always been this awful. They've always favored Roy, but used to at least pretend to respect me. The mask has fully dropped now. And yes, I've documented every missed visit and canceled plan for the court. My lawyer says we can revisit the custody arrangement in a year if his pattern of neglect continues. Edit 2. A lot of people are saying I should stop letting Roy disappoint Summer and just not tell her when he's supposed to visit. I've actually tried that approach, but then he randomly shows up sometimes when it's convenient for him, and then I'm the bad guy for not having her ready. Can't win. Edit 3. Thanks for the questions about my certification program. It was through our local community college and took about 3 months of night classes. Totally worth it for updating my skills after being out of the full-time workforce for so long. Now for the second update. So it's been about 6 months since my last update and a full year since Roy blew up our lives. I wasn't planning on posting again, but something happened recently that I just need to get off my chest. And honestly, you all were so helpful before that it feels right to share this here. Like, so much has happened since I last posted. My life is completely different now in ways I never could have imagined when I was sitting on my couch at 2 a.m. typing that first post and basically having a nervous breakdown. First, the good stuff. I got promoted at work. I'm now the marketing team lead, which came with a pretty decent salary bump. It's still not what I was making before Summer was born, when I was working full-time, but it's enough that we were able to move out of that tiny apartment into a townhouse. We actually bought it, which still feels surreal after worrying about making rent just a few months ago. It's nothing fancy, but it's ours. Well, mine and the bank's lol. And Summer has her own room that's big enough for sleepovers, which she couldn't do in the apartment. Mrs. Chen brings us homemade cookies every Sunday and tells Summer stories about growing up in the 60s. Summer adores her. It's like we found this extended family in our new neighborhood that we never expected. I was just trying to find affordable housing in a decent school district, not a surrogate grandma, but here we are. Oh, and my freelance work has really taken off too. I've been working evenings after Summer goes to bed, and I've built up this solid client base to the point where I'm actually thinking about starting my own small agency. Maybe. I mean, it's just an idea right now, but my friend Lisa keeps telling me I should go for it. But then I worry about the stability for Summer. But then I remember how Roy always made me doubt myself, and I get all angry again. It's complicated. Summer is doing really well. She's 9 now, and has joined this soccer team where she's made a bunch of new friends. Her therapist says she's shown significant improvement in her sense of security and self-worth. She still asks about Roy sometimes, especially when he cancels plans, which is still way too often, but she doesn't get as devastated by it anymore. She's more resilient now. Sometimes I look at her and just feel amazed at how she's handled everything. I feel like I'm completely over Roy, like totally moved on. Okay, fine. Sometimes when I can't sleep, I still look at old family photos and wonder if I could have done something differently to save our marriage. I'm working on this in therapy, but mostly I'm just focused on building our new life. There's this dad, Gabe, whose daughter Lily is on Summer's soccer team. He's a single dad too. His wife died of cancer a few years ago, and we've been getting coffee after practices sometimes to talk about single parent stuff. My sister Christine is convinced he's interested in me romantically, but I think he's just being friendly. Like, we're just two single parents supporting each other, right? Although last week he did compliment my new haircut and seemed kind of nervous about it. I don't know, I'm probably reading too much into it. It's been so long since I've dated that I wouldn't even know if someone was flirting with me anymore. Anyway, so that's been our life. Things were actually really good and stable until about 3 weeks ago when Roy started texting me constantly. At first, I ignored them because I figured it was just him trying to reschedule one of his visits with Summer, which he cancels like 50% of the time still. But they kept coming and coming, so I finally sat down and read them all, and wow. Apparently Courtney left him for her boss Ian, the 48-year-old managing partner I mentioned in my last update. According to our mutual friend Matt, she literally moved directly from Roy's apartment into Ian's lakefront mansion. Sound familiar? Oh, and get this. They announced their engagement at the company holiday party. The same party where everyone found out about Roy and Courtney's affair a year ago. You cannot make this stuff up. And then Roy got let go during a restructuring at the firm, which obviously had everything to do with the personal drama. According to Matt, it was humiliating. Security escorted him out while everyone watched. I probably should have felt bad for him, and maybe a tiny part of me did, but mostly I just felt this weird sense of, like, things finally worked out fairly. Is that terrible of me? I mean, he destroyed our family and put Summer through so much pain, but I still didn't want to, celebrate his misfortune or whatever. That's not who I want to be. So I didn't respond to any of his texts. But then last Tuesday evening, when Summer was at her therapy appointment, guess who showed up at my door? Yep, Roy. He looked awful, unshaven, wrinkled clothes, just completely disheveled. He said I looked really good with this shocked expression, like he expected me to have completely fallen apart without him or something. I thanked him politely, but stayed in the doorway, definitely not inviting him in. He asked if we could talk about important things, and I hesitated but agreed to a quick conversation. I suggested we sit on the front porch because no way was I letting him into my house. He started complaining about Courtney leaving him and how he got fired and his whole life was falling apart. I just listened without saying anything. Then he noticed my watch. I bought myself a nice one after my promotion and actually asked if I was dating someone with money, which is so like him to assume I couldn't buy it myself. When I told him it was a gift to myself after my promotion, he looked genuinely shocked. He kept looking around the townhouse, making comments about how it must be expensive, implying I couldn't afford it on my own. I just calmly told him my financial situation wasn't his concern anymore. It was so weird watching his face change as he realized I was actually doing better without him. He went from self-pitying to this calculating look really fast. From what he told me, and what Matt confirmed later, he's living in some tiny studio apartment because he couldn't afford the payments on the luxury condo he shared with Courtney after getting fired. He hasn't been able to find another job at the same level because apparently word got around about his personal and professional conduct. He's working at some small firm now on commission only, which isn't bringing in much. He showed me a sobriety chip from AA and told me he'd developed a drinking problem after everything fell apart with Courtney. But Matt told me later he's only been to one meeting, so... He started reminiscing about our family life together, conveniently forgetting all the times he criticized me or was emotionally distant before the affair even started. Oh, and he was wearing the watch I gave him for our 10th anniversary. I know he wore it on purpose to remind me of our history. So manipulative. That first visit was awkward, but manageable. But then 3 days later, he showed up again when Summer was home. She was initially so excited to see him, running into his arms and everything, but then he started being super weird, giving her tons of affection and making these vague promises about being a family again soon, which made my stomach drop. Summer insisted he stay for dinner. What was I supposed to say? And he used the opportunity to make all these comments about how he belonged at our table and how he wanted to fix past mistakes. He kept referring to our townhouse as nice but temporary, and asked Summer if she wouldn't prefer to live in a real house with a yard again. I wanted to scream. Over the next 2 weeks, he was texting daily and showing up unannounced all the time. The worst part was he started using Summer as emotional leverage, telling her that mommy is keeping us apart and suggesting I was being selfish by not wanting our family reunited. I was furious, but tried not to show it in front of Summer. I talked to both my therapist and lawyer about what to do. My lawyer told me to document everything and maintain clear boundaries, while my therapist suggested having a direct conversation with Roy without Summer present. So I invited him to meet at this coffee shop to discuss the situation. I know it probably sounds stupid to willingly meet with him after everything, but I needed to handle this directly for Summer's sake. I got there early and picked a corner table for privacy. Roy showed up 15 minutes late and immediately started complaining about traffic. Classic Roy. I started by saying I appreciated his desire to be more involved in Summer's life, trying to be diplomatic. He interrupted me right away, saying he wanted more than just involvement. He wanted his family back. I took out this folder I had prepared with some documents. He actually smiled, like he thought these were reconciliation papers or something. First, I showed him my promotion announcement and salary documentation. He looked confused instead of happy for me, which told me everything. Then I showed him photos of all the home improvements I'd made and some of Summer's art about our happy home. He dismissed all of it, saying Summer would be happier in a real family. That's when I showed him screenshots of texts he had sent during the affair, calling me suffocating and saying he felt trapped in our marriage. He got super defensive, saying that was in the past and he'd been confused. I presented this co-parenting plan I'd worked on with my lawyer that outlined clear visitation schedules and communication guidelines. He pushed it aside without even reading it, insisting we should try again for Summer's sake. I tried to stay calm and just stated that I had built a new life for myself and Summer without him. He got really agitated at that point, accusing me of being vindictive by rejecting him. I offered to connect him with some job recruiters I know and even recommended my therapist. That made him even angrier. He said I was flaunting my success to hurt him. I stood up and told him very clearly that reconciliation was not an option. That's when he grabbed my wrist. Several people in the cafe looked over at us, and I just calmly but firmly asked him to let go, which he did immediately. I left the co-parenting plan on the table and told him it was his choice to be a good father or not. As I walked away, I turned back and told him I forgave him. Not for him, but for myself. My therapist suggested this might help with my own healing. The aftermath was predictable. Roy sent a bunch of angry texts and even threatened to fight for full custody, which was laughable considering his minimal interest in parenting before. I only communicated through this co-parenting app my lawyer recommended. But here's the surprising part. After a few weeks, he actually started following the structured visitation schedule in my co-parenting plan. I've noticed some signs that he might genuinely be working on himself. He's attending therapy regularly now, seems to be maintaining sobriety, and got a more stable job at his friend's small financial planning firm. I've been trying to help their father-daughter relationship while protecting my own boundaries. I make sure Roy can attend Summer's soccer games and school events, but with clear rules about our interactions. We now have these brief, civil conversations about Summer's needs without all the emotional manipulation from before. Part of me had fantasized about some dramatic revenge when he came crawling back, not gonna lie, but I've found way more satisfaction in just moving forward with my life and modeling healthy boundaries for Summer. That's the best revenge anyway, right? So now, life continues. My career is going well. I'm feeling more confident as a single mom, and I actually have a dinner date with Gabe next weekend. His sister is babysitting both our daughters. I recently turned down a job offer that would have required us to move because I wanted to prioritize Summer's stability and her newly improved relationship with her father. I still have trust issues, working on it in therapy, and some days are still really hard. But I don't define myself by Roy's abandonment anymore. I never would have chosen this path, but I've created a more authentic life than I had in my marriage. Watching Summer thrive has been the greatest reward. Edit. Wow, this blew up overnight. Thank you all for the supportive comments. To answer some common questions, no, I'm not worried about Roy trying to take the townhouse. It's solely in my name and purchased after our divorce was finalized. Yes, I have documented everything, including his manipulative comments to Summer and the wrist-grabbing incident at the coffee shop. My lawyer has copies of it all,